The grand arena of Nexus Prime fell silent as the latest batch of primitives was herded into the holding pens. Just another day in the glorious Zakkarian Empire, another species to break, another source of entertainment for the masses. Well, would you look at that? The new meat has arrived, remarked Voryx, my superior and the arena's chief acquisition officer. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he examined the creatures through the one-way barrier. Bipedal, soft-skinned, pathetic-looking, even by primitive standards. I nodded in agreement, though I'd learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving. 27 cycles as assistant acquisition officer had taught me that much. What do we call them again? Humans. Humans. Voryx corrected, elongating the first syllable with unnecessary drama. His skin rippled with amusement. From some backwater planet called Earth, third rock from a mediocre star at the edge of the Orion spiral. They have barely mastered basic space travel, and Supreme Commander Drozek thinks they will make good fighters. I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. The scans showed they had no natural armor, no claws, limited muscle mass compared to our previous acquisitions. Their teeth weren't even worth mentioning. Voryx laughed, a harsh sound that echoed against the obsidian walls. Drozek doesn't care if they are good fighters, Kalvor. He cares if they are good entertainment. Remember the Froxterians? Lasted 3 minutes in the arena before being eviscerated. The ratings were spectacular. I suppressed a shudder. The Froxterians had been gentle herbivores. Their slaughter had been excessive. So these humans are destined for the same fate. Perhaps. Though our intelligence suggests they might have more potential. They are supposedly adaptable, creative under pressure. Might last a few rounds before the Grakthal champions tear them apart. One of the humans approached the barrier, staring directly at us, though I knew they couldn't possibly see through the one-way material. This one was taller than the others, with darker skin and a strange calm in its stance. Unlike the others who huddled together or paced frantically, this one stood still, examining its surroundings with calculated precision. That one's different, I noted. They are all the same, Kalvor. Primitive, doomed cannon fodder. Don't start getting attached. Remember what happened with the Tellurians? I bristled at the reminder. My one mistake in 27 cycles. I'd seen intelligence in the Tellurians, had suggested special training. They'd turned out to be unexpectedly vicious, killing 3 handlers before being put down. My career had nearly ended over that fiasco. I'm not getting attached. Just making an observation. Well, observe less, and work more. We need to process 50 of them for the first round of fights scheduled for tomorrow's grand tournament. Emperor Zoltek himself will be watching. Great, the Emperor. That extra pressure, extra scrutiny, and inevitably, extra bloodshed. Emperor Zoltek wasn't known for his subtlety or mercy. He liked his entertainment bloody and decisive. I will start the processing, I said, turning to the control panel. No. Voryx placed one of his upper limbs on my shoulder. I want you to handle the assessment interviews personally. Get a sense of what we are working with. See if there are any worth saving for the special matches. I tried not to show my surprise. Assessment interviews were typically handled by senior officers. It was a promotion of sorts, though a grim one. Yes, sir. I will begin immediately. Good. I will be monitoring from the command center. Remember, Kalvor, no compassion. They are not people, they are property. With that, Voryx slithered away, leaving me alone with the observation panel. I watched the humans for a moment longer. The tall one was now speaking to the others, gesturing calmly. Whatever it was saying seemed to be having an effect. The frantic energy in the holding pen was settling into something more organized. Interesting. I signaled for the guards to bring the first human to the assessment chamber. Might as well start with the tall one. 2 Krongar guards, hulking reptilian brutes bred specifically for security, entered the pen and seized the tall human. To my surprise, it didn't resist, instead, walking willingly between them. This was unusual. Most new acquisitions fought, screamed, or begged. The assessment chamber was a small, sterile room, with 2 chairs separated by a table embedded with restraint fields and translation matrices. I took my seat as the guards brought in the human and secured it to the opposite chair. "Leave us," I instructed the guards. They hesitated, looking dubiously at the human. "It's restrained. Go." Once alone with the human, I activated the translator. A small drone hovered between us, ready to convert our speech. "I am Kalvor, Assistant Acquisition Officer of the Grand Arena. You will answer my questions truthfully and completely. Failure to comply will result in immediate pain. Do you understand?" The human's eyes, brown and disconcertingly direct, locked onto mine. "Perfectly," it replied through the translator. Its voice came through as deep and measured. "My name is Desmond Carter. I was a soldier before your ships took us." "A soldier? That'll end the composure. Your previous occupation is irrelevant, human Desmond. You are now property of the Zakkarian Empire and will fight for our entertainment until you die." He expected fear, anger, perhaps desperate bargaining. Instead, the human's mouth curved slightly upward, a gesture our intelligence identified as a smile, though this didn't seem to indicate happiness. "How many species have you captured for your arena, Kalvor?" Desmond asked. I blinked in surprise. Acquisitions didn't ask questions. They pleaded, threatened, or sat in numb silence. "That is not relevant to your assessment," I replied stiffly. "I think it is, because I'm guessing none of them have ever escaped. None have ever turned the tables. That's why you are so confident, sitting there telling me I'm going to die for your entertainment." I felt a chill run through my central nervous system. There was something in the way the human spoke. Not bravado or false courage, but a calm certainty that was unsettling. "Threats will not improve your situation, human. Now tell me about your combat capabilities. Are you representative of your species' physical abilities?" Desmond leaned forward slightly. "I will tell you what. I will answer your questions if you answer one of mine. Deal." I should have activated the pain circuits immediately. Protocol demanded it. But curiosity got the better of me. "One question. Then you comply fully." That smile again, slightly wider. "The others you have captured, how long did they last in your arena?" A strange query. "It varies. Some species survive multiple bouts if they prove entertaining. The Xanthians lasted nearly a full cycle before the last one fell. The Froxterians, as I mentioned earlier, barely survived their first encounter. And what determined which group survived longer? Was it physical strength, natural weapons, size?" "That's more than one question," I noted, but found myself answering anyway. "No. Physical attributes are only part of the equation. The Xanthians were physically weaker than many species that perished quickly. But they were intelligent, adaptable. They learned to use the arena to their advantage. They worked together." Desmond nodded, as if I'd confirmed something important. "Humans aren't the strongest species. We don't have claws or armor or venomous stingers. But we adapt, we strategize. And when we work together, we are formidable." "Your confidence is misplaced. The arena is designed to break cooperation, to pit fighter against fighter. Is it now?" Another smile, this one showing teeth. "Tell me about the weapons we will be given." I hesitated, then decided there was no harm in this information. Various primitive implements. Blades, blunt objects. Simple projectile weapons. Nothing energy-based or advanced. The audience prefers visceral combat. Perfect. The word was soft, almost to himself. "Enough questions," I said firmly. "Our scans show your species has limited regenerative capabilities and moderate strength. What combat training do you possess?" Desmond straightened in his chair. "I was Special Forces. 15 years of combat experience in some of the most hostile environments on our planet. But I'm not unique. Among the 50 you captured, there are at least 7 other military veterans I have identified. 3 police tactical officers, a couple of martial arts experts. Even the civilians have potential. This was valuable information, and I quickly noted it in my datapad. This batch might provide better entertainment than expected. And your weaknesses? Physical vulnerabilities. The human actually laughed. You want me to tell you how to kill us more efficiently? Sorry, that's not how this works. I activated a mild pain circuit, just enough to establish dominance. Desmond's body tensed, but his expression barely changed. Impressive control. Let me be clear, human. Your cooperation can make your remaining time less unpleasant. We can provide better quarters, more substantial nutrition, even minor medical care if you prove valuable. Generous, Desmond replied through gritted teeth, as I deactivated the pain circuit. But I think you misunderstand our situation. We are not going to just fight in your arena. We are going to take it over. This time, I couldn't contain my amusement. 50 soft-skinned primitives against the might of the Zakkarian Empire? Your species must possess remarkable self-delusion. It's called hope, actually. Combined with determination and resourcefulness, you will see what I mean soon enough. I finished recording my observations and stood. Your assessment is complete, human Desmond. You show potential for extended survival. This will be noted favorably. As the guards entered to take him away, Desmond spoke again. One last thing, Kalvor. You seem different from your superior. Less cruel. Remember that when things change. I ignored the strange comment and signaled the guards to return him to the holding area. Over the next several hours, I interviewed 20 more humans. They varied in physical capability, but I noticed a pattern. None showed the abject terror typical of new acquisitions. Some were frightened. Yes, but underneath was a steely resolve, and many mentioned Desmond by name, suggesting he had already established some kind of leadership role. By the time I finished, I had a comprehensive report for Vorex. The humans would likely survive the initial rounds. They might even become audience favorites if properly matched. I recommended starting them against mid-tier opponents rather than throwing them immediately to the Grakthol champions. I found Vorex in the command center, reviewing security protocols for the Emperor's visit. Your assessment? He asked without looking up. The humans show unusual psychological resilience, I reported. Several have military training. They may prove more entertaining than anticipated. Vorex's upper eyes narrowed. You sound impressed, Kalvor. Not impressed, just accurate in my assessment. They won't break easily, which means better entertainment value. Perhaps, Vorex conceded. We will start them in tomorrow's preliminary rounds. 10 humans against a pack of Vorex hounds. That should be sufficiently dramatic for the Emperor's arrival ceremony. Vorex hound, savage, 6-legged predators with acidic saliva and armored hides. I kept my expression neutral. That's quite challenging for an opening match. That's the point. Emperor Zoltek doesn't want a long, drawn-out contest. He wants blood and spectacle. I nodded, knowing better than to argue. Which 10 should I select? The strongest ones, obviously, including that one you started with, Desmond. Whatever its name is. I want them prepped and ready by first light. Minimal armor, basic weapons. Make it sporting but not too sporting. Yes, sir. I turned to leave, and Kalvor? Vorex's voice stopped me. Don't get attached. I have seen that look before. These humans will die like all the others. It's just a matter of when. I left without responding, heading down to the preparation level where the selected humans would be outfitted for tomorrow's match. The armory was a vast chamber filled with weapons from across the galaxy. All deliberately primitive, all designed to maximize bloodshed while minimizing the chance of quick, merciful deaths. The human called Desmond was the first brought in, along with 9 others I'd identified as physically capable. They were secured to preparation stations while attendants measured them for the flimsy armor they'd be allowed. I approached Desmond's station, dismissing the attendant with a gesture. You have been selected for tomorrow's opening match, I informed him, keeping my voice professional. You will face Rex hounds, predatory pack animals. They hunt by, let me guess, Desmond interrupted. They coordinate their attacks, target the weakest first, and have some kind of natural weapon. Claws, venom, acid. I blinked in surprise. Acidic saliva. Their hides are also naturally armored, particularly around the neck and skull. Vulnerability. I should have reprimanded him for the question. Instead, I found myself answering. Their underbellies are softer, and their eyes, of course. They are also sensitive to high-pitched sounds, though you will have no way to generate those. Desmond nodded thoughtfully. How many? 12 hounds against 10 of you. And our weapons? Basic bladed implements. Perhaps some spears, a shield each. The humans seem to be calculating something. And if we win, what happens then? You advance to the next round. More difficult opponents. Better quarters. Improved rations. And if we keep winning? I hesitated. No acquisition had ever won enough matches to reach freedom status. It was theoretically possible, but practically unheard of. 30 victories would earn classified status, permanent fighters rather than disposable ones. After 100 victories, freedom is technically possible, though no one has ever achieved it. Desmond laughed, a genuine sound of amusement that drew the attention of the other humans. 100 fights, against increasingly difficult odds. That's not a path to freedom, that's just a slower death sentence. I couldn't disagree. Those are the rules of the arena. Rules, Desmond repeated, that strange smile returning. Let me tell you something about humans and rules, Kalvor. We only follow them when they make sense. Otherwise we change them. The rules of the arena cannot be changed. They are enforced by the full might of the Zakkarian Empire. We will see. I finished the preparations, selecting weapons that would give them at least some chance against the Rex hounds. As I worked, I noticed the humans communicating with subtle gestures when they thought no one was watching. Organizing already. Planning. It wasn't until I was leaving the preparation area that I realized something troubling. During my interaction with Desmond, he had been the one asking questions, extracting information. I had been the one answering, revealing vulnerabilities about the Rex hounds, details about the arena system. Somehow our roles had reversed. That night I reviewed the security footage of the human holding area. They weren't resting as most acquisitions did before their first match. Instead, they were gathered in small groups, with Desmond moving between them. Training. I could see him demonstrating fighting stances, weapon grips, tactical formations, preparing for something more than just survival. I should have reported this to Varix immediately. Instead, I found myself watching with growing fascination. There was something compelling about their refusal to accept their fate, however inevitable it might be. Morning came quickly. The grand arena hummed with anticipation. Emperor Zoltek's arrival was announced with typical Zakkarian bombast, trumpet-like instruments, synchronized light displays, the chanting of his many titles. The audience of 50,000 elite Zakkarians roared their approval as he took his place in the imperial box. I stood at my assigned position near the competitor's entrance, watching as the humans were led out into the arena. They wore the minimal armor we'd provided, thin chest plates, forearm guards, open helmets that offered minimal protection. Each carried a shield and their chosen weapon. Desmond had selected a spear and a short blade. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. Esteemed citizens of the glorious Zakkarian Empire, welcome to the grand tournament. Today, by the grace of our divine Emperor Zoltek, we present a new species for your entertainment. The crowd roared. Behold the humans, pinnable bites from the edge of the Orion spiral. Will they provide worthy sport, or will they fall like so many before them? The humans were positioned in the center of the arena, a vast circular field of artificial sand surrounded by energy barriers and rising seats. They formed a tight circle, backs to each other, weapons outward. Not the panicked scattering I'd expected. And now their opponents, the fearsome Rex hounds of Gorgon Prime. Gates opened on the opposite side of the arena. The Rex hounds emerged, sleek, six-legged predators, with elongated jaws dripping with caustic saliva. Their armored hides gleamed under the arena lights, ridged plates protecting their vital areas. 12 of them, as promised, circling and snapping as their handlers released them. The signal to begin sounded. The hounds charged, And then something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking formation or freezing in terror, the humans tightened their circle. As the first hound leapt, Desmond's spear shot out with precision, catching it directly in the eye. The creature fell, thrashing and howling. The crowd gasped. The other hounds attacked simultaneously from different angles. The humans pivoted as a unit, shields interlocked, spears and blades striking out in coordinated defense. 2 more hounds fell, impaled through their less protected underbellies, as the humans somehow flipped them during the attack. This wasn't the desperate flailing of doomed primitives. This was strategy, discipline, military precision. What is this? Vorex had appeared beside me, his 4 eyes wide with shock. You said they were resilient, not trained warriors. They are adapting, I replied, unable to keep the fascination from my voice. Working together. On the arena floor, the battle continued. The humans had lost their perfect formation, but were now fighting in pairs, covering each other. When one hound managed to drag down a human, a shorter female with bright red hair, 2 others immediately came to her defense, driving their blades into the creature's throat. The Emperor is not pleased, Vorex hissed. This was supposed to be a slaughter, not a demonstration of primitive ingenuity. Indeed, Emperor Zoltek was leaning forward in his viewing box, multiple limbs gesticulating in obvious agitation. This wasn't the entertainment he'd expected. In the arena, the tide had turned decisively. 7 Vex hounds lay dead or dying. The remaining 5 were circling warily, their pack mentality shaken by the unexpected resistance. The humans had suffered injuries, acid burns, lacerations, 1 male with what appeared to be a broken arm, but all 10 remained standing. Desmond shouted something, and the humans formed a new pattern, actively advancing on the remaining hounds rather than waiting for their attack. The crowd, initially shocked into silence, began to murmur with growing interest. This was becoming a real contest. The last Vex hound fell to a coordinated attack by 3 humans, who used their shields to flip it onto its back, before driving their blades into its soft underbelly. Silence fell over the arena. 10 humans stood bloodied, but victorious, surrounded by the carcasses of 12 Rex hounds. Then Desmond did something unprecedented. He walked to the center of the arena, looked directly up at the Emperor's box, and made a gesture our cultural database identified as obscene in human communication. The crowd erupted, not in anger, but in wild excitement. They had come for blood and spectacle. The humans had delivered both, just not in the way anyone expected. Emperor Zoltek rose from his seat, his expression unreadable from my position. After a moment of tension, he extended one upper limb, thumb pointed upward, the traditional signal for an impressive display. The audience roared their approval. Vorex grabbed my arm. This changes nothing. They won a single bout against beasts. The next round will be against trained gladiators. They won't stand a chance. But as I watched the humans being led from the arena, their heads high despite their injuries, I wasn't so sure. Desmond caught my eye. As he passed, that same confident smile on his face. "Remember what I said, Kalvor," he murmured, as he passed. "We are not just going to fight in your arena, we are going to take it over." And for the first time in my 27 cycles as an acquisition officer, I found myself wondering if an acquisition might actually keep their promise. The real games, it seemed, were just beginning. News of the humans' victory spread through Nexus Prime like wildfire. By the following rotation, viewing requests for their next match had crashed the booking systems. The Empire's elite clamored for premium seats. Gambling syndicates established unprecedented odds, and Emperor Zoltek, ever attuned to the public mood, demanded an accelerated schedule. 3 days, Vorex announced during our morning briefing. The Emperor wants the humans in the Champions Ring in 3 days. I nearly dropped my data tablet. 3 days? That's impossible. Protocol demands at least a week between matches for medical recovery and proper marketing build-up. Vorex's skin darkened with irritation. Protocol is irrelevant when the Emperor commands. Besides, these humans have barely suffered any injuries. Their performance against the Vex hounds was unexpected. That was an understatement. What should have been a quick, bloody spectacle had instead become the most talked about upset in recent arena history. 10 supposedly primitive aliens defeating 12 of our most vicious predators with minimal casualties. Unheard of. What opponents are scheduled? I asked, already dreading the answer. The Krell brothers. My stomach's clenched. The Krell brothers were legendary gladiators. 4 genetically enhanced warriors from the Andromeda satellite galaxy. They had fought in the arena for 15 cycles, amassing a record of 73 consecutive victories. They were brutal, efficient, and utterly without mercy. That's not a match, I protested. That's an execution. The humans deserve a gradual progression based on their performance. Standard protocol would pit them against. Your concern for these primitives is becoming problematic, Kalvor. Borex interrupted, his voice dangerously soft. Perhaps you need a reminder of your position. These humans are property, entertainment, nothing more. I composed myself. My concern is for the entertainment value, sir. A prolonged competition generates more revenue than a quick slaughter. Borex studied me for an uncomfortable moment, then relented slightly. Your point has merit. Nevertheless, the Emperor's command stands. 3 days. The Krell brothers, make sure your precious humans are prepared to provide a spectacle, however brief. After Borex slithered away, I immediately headed to the human holding area. The security protocols had been upgraded following their victory. Force fields, additional guards, surveillance drones, excessive measures for 10 exhausted fighters. Except they weren't exhausted. When I reached the observation window, I found the humans engaged in structured physical activity. Desmond and a shorter, heavily muscled human with dark skin were demonstrating combat techniques to the others. They had repurposed their meager bedding materials into training equipment. Even those with injuries were participating, adapting the movements to accommodate their limitations. I signaled the guards to bring Desmond to the interview chamber. There was no time for subtlety. When he entered, I noticed immediately that his injuries from the Rexhound battle had been treated with unexpected effectiveness. The acid burns on his forearm were covered with a makeshift bandage created from torn clothing and some kind of paste. Your next match has been scheduled, I said without preamble. 3 days from now, against the Krell brothers. I expected shock, perhaps fear. Instead, Desmond nodded thoughtfully. Tell me about them. Once again, I found myself answering instead of questioning. 4 elite gladiators, genetically enhanced, undefeated for 15 cycles. They are stronger, faster, and better armed than anything you have faced. Intelligent. Very. They coordinate their attacks with precision. They study their opponents beforehand to identify weaknesses. Desmond absorbed this information with that same calculating expression I was coming to recognize. And the arena? Same as before. No. The champion's ring is larger, with varying terrain, elevated sections, water features, limited cover. Environmental hazards are sometimes activated during the match. What kind of hazards? Fire jets, acid pools, shifting platforms. It depends on the Emperor's whim. Desmond smiled that unnerving smile. Sounds fun. What weapons will we have? You will each be allowed to select from an expanded arsenal. Still primitive by our standards, but more variety than before. Projectile weapons are included, though with limited ammunition. How many of us will fight? All 10 survivors from the first match. Desmond nodded. We will need better medical supplies, real treatment for our injured. I blinked in surprise at the demand. You are in no position to make requests. Human. It's not a request. It's a business proposition. You want a good show? We need to be at our best. Your paste treatments for acid burns are ineffective. Maya has 3 broken fingers that need proper setting. Raj has a concussion. I hesitated. There was logic to his argument, even if his tone was inappropriately commanding. I will see what I can do. And we need more food. Protein. Your current rations are barely keeping us functional. You are pushing your luck, Desmond. He leaned forward. Let me explain something about humans, Kalvor. We perform best when we are properly fueled and healthy. Right now, you are getting maybe 40% of our potential. Imagine what we could do at 80%. The audience would love it. The audacity was breathtaking. Yet again, he had maneuvered me into a position where his demands seemed reasonable. I will consult with medical about appropriate nutrition. Good. One more thing. We want to see footage of the Krell brothers in action. Now he'd gone too far. Absolutely not. Acquisitions are not permitted to study their opponents. Why not? Afraid we might win again? The Krell brothers have defeated opponents far more formidable than 10 soft-skinned primitives. Desmond shrugged. Then what's the harm in letting us see what we are up against? Unless you are worried. I stood abruptly. This interview is over. Prepare yourself, human. In 3 days, your brief moment of glory will end, and the natural order will be restored. As the guards led him away, Desmond called over his shoulder. You know, Kalvor, I'm starting to think you might be on the wrong side of history here. Think about that. The wrong side of history. The phrase echoed in my mind as I made my way to the medical bay. What an absurd concept. The Zakkarian Empire had stood for millennia. We had conquered 3 galaxies. Our dominance was the natural order. Yet something about these humans continued to unsettle me. Against my better judgment, I arranged for improved medical treatment and nutrition for the human fighters. I justified it as ensuring a better spectacle. But deep down, I recognized an uncomfortable truth. I wanted them to have a fighting chance. Not to win necessarily, but to demonstrate their full potential before the inevitable end. The day of the match arrived with unprecedented fanfare. The champion's ring was filled beyond capacity. Emperor Zoltek arrived with an expanded entourage, including diplomats from 3 subjugated systems. Gambling had reached fever pitch, though the odds remained overwhelmingly in favor of the Krell brothers. I stood at my station near the competitor's entrance, watching as the humans were led out. They had been given better armor this time, still far from premium quality, but offering legitimate protection for vital areas. Each carried personalized weapons based on their selection. Desmond had chosen a medium-length spear, a short sword and a small circular shield. Others carried combinations of axes, longer swords, maces, and in one case the red-haired female, a pair of curved blades.